Assalamu alaikum. Welcome in debate. I am with your host Tariq Khan. United States of America has a central role in international relations and various issues over the globe. We will explore and analyze the intentions of new power shift and foreign policy of United States of America towards South Asia, with special focus on Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India's relations. Let me bring our guest in program, Mr. Saddam Hussein. You are research fellow at Center for Research and Security Studies, Islamabad, Pakistan. Saddam, you are welcome and thank you for joining. How do you foresee Pak-US relations under Joe Biden presidency? And do you expect any difference in approach between Trump and Biden administrations?
Ji, thank you. Ji. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a very good initiative to engage young people in these kind of debates on YouTube channel, which is the future now in the online space. Regarding your question, I would start from comparison between Joe Biden and Trump. Joe Biden and Trump are as different as chalk and cheese, personality-wise. But looking at the substance, their policies were not much different from the U.S. traditional stance on the foreign policy. Pak-U.S. relations historically have been transactional in nature. It was always about U.S. needs and how Pakistan can use that needs in its own interest to promote its own regional interests and global interests. So, forgetting history, if we look into the last 20 years, 2 decades, these were also the same. Like the relationship was transactional in nature. And I don't think so that next 4 years will be any different. The only thing which binds two states together is the geostrategic interest, which includes geography, shared values, common threat perceptions, entrepreneurial innovation, and the market size. So geography is of no question. We have different geographies, shared values. As they say in the book, The Clash of Civilizations, they have Western values and we have Eastern values and more specifically Muslim values. So common threat perceptions, the next one is also very different. We diverge on many significant issues. Entrepreneurial innovation, Pakistan unfortunately is not brimming with the innovation, so that's not an attraction for US. The market size, unfortunately, we could not do well due to low literacy rate and not investing in skill-based education. We could have competed with India, but we failed up till now. So I guess there's only one connection between Washington and Islamabad, that is Afghanistan. As far as Afghanistan remains relevant for good or bad, Pakistan will be relevant for the Washington. And I guess Pakistan have contributed very positively to the negotiations, bringing using their influence to bring the Taliban on the table talks. So I guess Biden and Pakistan, the policy led by Imran Khan now, I guess they are much on the same page. They want slow withdrawal. They want, negotiation to be in detail and to.
Pakistan has played a significant role in bringing Taliban to table talks. Now, Islamabad has pledged to facilitate intra-Afghan dialogue as well wherever possible. How do you see Pak-Afghan relations with the incoming American President Joe Biden?
I guess, as I said, American President and Joe Biden's vision and Imran Khan's vision seems to be on the same page. They don't want abrupt withdrawal from Afghanistan, leaving a vacuum for the civil war, and they want to engage all Afghan stakeholders and have an inclusive and intra-Afghan negotiations. So I guess as far as that is concerned, we are on the same page. And we have also been taking so many other initiatives under FATF, etc. So I guess the pressure of do more will no more be on Islamabad. And we have a clear vision and a clear strategy, regional, global. We have chalked down everything outside in front of the world. But regarding Pak-Afghan relations, I guess these no more need the prosthetic. It's too early to say, but I would take the permission to say that this will not be needing the prosthetics of the Americans anymore. Because if you see, Imran Khan did not wait for the Joe Biden's coming into the White House and waiting for the inaugural speech, the first presidential speech. Usually it would be like he should have waited for the Joe Biden speech and then what he thinks about Afghanistan, and then he should have visited Afghanistan so that to be on the same page. But he did not wait for Joe Biden, and he visited Afghanistan, and very clearly he stated what his vision for Afghanistan is, how we see our neighbor. We would do everything possible for the peace process in Afghanistan, and we would bring down we will bring all stakeholders together for intra-Afghan negotiations. And if you remember, Imran Khan in his speech with Ashraf Ghani said that the violence level has been enormous in past few weeks, and this is a concern. And after 2 weeks, you must have observed that there was an agreement between the Taliban and the Afghan government on the TURs of the intra-Afghan negotiations. And there was other strings of CBMs laid down by Islamabad for Afghanistan. These are for trade-related, a new friendly and liberal visa regime for Afghanistan. And in last month, we have been told 80,000 visas were issued for Afghans, and 90 to 95% of them were above 1 year. At first, it will be only for a month. Special envoys appointment on the both sides, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and now enhancing trade, ease of doing business. And we also hosted a Pak-Afghan trade summit in Islamabad, which were participated by more than 200 Afghan traders. And the Pak-Afghan Friendship Group, which comes under the Parliament of Pakistan, which meets twice in a month to listen and resolve issues of traders and visas, students, etc. I guess there's understanding on both sides that we need each other. Afghanistan and Pakistan need each other, irrespective of Joe Biden or whatever. Now there's a sense that we should work together, and we have achieved zero. We have achieved zero so far by blaming each other, by involving blame game, etc. So I guess there's a realization that Afghanistan should work together, and the leadership is there. Imran Khan invited Ashraf Ghani. If he visits, this will be more like another CBM in the equation. So I guess better days ahead for Pak-Afghan relations, irrespective of Joe Biden. Obviously, it will play a role, but there's a regional approach now towards the Pak-Afghan relations.
Do you think Biden foreign policy will be different regarding withdrawal of American forces from Afghanistan?
I guess American policy never changes in substance. Yes, it changes in the procedure and the structure. So Biden policy, we will not change regarding Afghanistan. Biden earlier too, when he was vice president in Obama's administration, he was against the sending more troops to Afghanistan. So he's in the favor of troop withdrawal, but he would want a steady and slow withdrawal, so that not to leave a vacuum for Afghanistan, for the Afghan factions to fight with each other. And he would be have a tough stance on the Taliban, that he would ensure that it's not just a withdrawal deal, but a peace deal. So he would not just pack his bags and go out of Afghanistan. He would ensure that there's a whole agreement with withdrawal. There are other things too. So I guess the process will slow down, and there will be a tougher time for the Taliban. But obviously, there's only way forward peace in Afghanistan. So there will be peace, there will be withdrawal, and there will be intra-Afghan negotiation. But it will be much more comprehensive and in structural manner now under Joe Biden.
How do you perceive India and US strategic cooperation and relations under Biden administrations, especially in the context of growing Hindutva fascism under Modi regime?
I guess Joe Biden in his campaign showed a commitment towards the human rights, and he said that we will ensure and safeguard human rights across the globe, championing America's stance as usual in universal leadership. But I guess when it comes to the strategic partnership with such countries like India, which has historically been very close to US, it won't be of any effect. So the India and American partnership will enhance more in the backdrop of China flexing its muscle in the East and now also moving forward towards the West. What China is at the top of the agenda of America's India-Pacific strategy. So whatever it takes, including arming India with the military and technological advancement. And for India, the assistance from US assist it for its vision of regional dominance. So recently, since 2005, they have signed 4 or 5 deals of strategic importance in nuclear field, in space, and military equipment and technology. So I guess it's not going to change. And now with Vice President Kamala Harris, and naturally she would have a soft spot for India. But I guess it won't change because of the Hindutva ideology and Hindutva fascism. In America would suffice with the customary statements for the human rights abuses in India, but more or less the strategic partnership will remain, and it will grow more and more because the threat of China and CPEC and Pakistan is now also closing with China. And they are more looking towards the Beijing for military, similar kind of military agreement, because we have been very close, but we don't have anything in writing, in black and white. So I guess Pakistan will now aim for similar agreements with China, and with China obviously we will favor it. So I guess it won't change any sooner.
How would you explain Beijing-Washington equation under new president in the White House?
Regarding Joe Biden, if you remember in 2000, Biden plus 82 senators were given a task to normalize trade relations with China, which he successfully did. And there was a lot of opposition against Joe Biden and the senators and the then government by the local traders that, America will be flooded with the Chinese products, which will create unemployment and there will be a competition issue. Shortly after, Biden was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And then he flew to China, and in Shanghai, in front of the Chinese reporters and international reporters, he said that China is not our enemy. There's not anything that we cannot do. We can be a normal states, state-to-state relation could be nurtured. It's not such like thing as an impossible thing. So, but now after 20 years, I guess it's less likely to be a friend, and more like Biden is ready for a new Cold War with China. Biden, in his election campaign, he called Xi Jinping a thug. Also, he wrote a piece in Foreign Affairs magazine that he was of the opinion in that article that US needs to get a tough stance against China. It's because it's not about what Joe Biden wants. Maybe individually he wants something else, but there's an overall mood, and the environment in America is as such that, especially after the pandemic, and there's media games played by the dirty games of media, which there was an image assassination without any evidence that it spread from China, and China has hands in it. So 75% of American population is against the China now. They are not in a favorable view of China. The American population, 75%, is a significant percentage of the population. So with that figure, you can gauge the mood of the American people. So I guess it's a compulsion for Joe Biden to have a tougher stance of China, and obviously it has economic reasons that America ought to have a tougher stance. Otherwise, it will lose economically too. So now China has signed a regional comprehensive economic partnership (RECP) with 15 countries, which was initiated by Indonesia, but obviously China, the bigger chunk of the pie, will be led by the China. It is something similar that America did in 2010 at the Trans-Pacific Partnership led by US, in which very intentionally America excluded China. So this is a similar kind of agreement which excluded US. So China has no regional approach. It has a different philosophy, and it focuses on economy and economic ventures, whereas America, on the other hand, is security and other things. So I guess the stance of China will still be a tough one, and the relations between them are no more close to be close to resolution. So I don't think so. Any normalization of relations between Beijing and Washington in 2 to 3 years, at least.
So, how do you see China's US relations impact on Pakistan and in overall the South Asia?
I guess China and US relations brought Chinese closer to Pakistan and India closer to America. So both countries have strategic partnership, deep linkages. China, America, and India feel threatened by the CPEC and OBOR. Due to that, they have created a media war, and they are doing everything possible to hold the CPEC and OBOR. So obviously, there's a threat by economic ventures, and China has an acceptability in the international world because of its stance on economy. It everywhere it says that China is for economics. We are contributing economically. We will be providing you jobs and industries, and so it has acceptability, and it's a threat for America. So instead of America threatening other countries around the globe, and similarly with India, which is threatening the smaller countries in the region, they should accept the reality, and they should take part. Like in Pakistan offered India that India could take part in CPEC, and we can expand the project and CPEC, and it can be a win-win situation. But within the economics, there's a lot of security and strategic interest, which are hindering both India and America to be the part of CPEC and OBOR, and to be closer to China and Pakistan. So there's a lot of gray areas which will keep blocking the way for cooperation between these countries.
Do you see any foreign policy changes towards Iran?
If we see the U.S. president's election campaign, Joe Biden's election campaign, as he was vice president of Obama, he has promised that he will bring back to the U.S. to the position of 2015, when U.S. and other powers signed an agreement with Iran, JCPOA, in 2015. But I guess now the assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist, supposedly by Israel, as they say, as the news reports say, it is a hindrance. It was an intended effort to halt any reach out by the Joe Biden towards Iran. It will make things much more difficult for Iran and Washington to have a table talk. So there are now two kind of, with this assassination, two kinds of groups emerge. One are the conservative, the other are the moderates. Conservatives are those, the Islamic revolutionary, historically they were, and the moderates are led by the President Hassan Rouhani. So now moderates are waiting for the President Joe Biden when he will take over officially, and his speech and his first ingredients of his stance on the global affairs. So then Iran could take a stance. But the conservatives are of the opinion that they want immediate revenge. They even say, Iranian conservatives even say that if we are to renegotiate, and the revenge will make us negotiate from the position of strength. And conservatives also say that if we are to renegotiate, what is the guarantee that it cannot be undone by the future president, as the Trump unilaterally withdrew from the agreement. So on the other hand, the U.S. administration under Joe Biden, people are of the view that if U.S. has to renegotiate with Iran, it should not only talk about the nuclear program, it should also talk about the ballistic missile program of Iran, and Iran's role in the region, and how it sponsors the proxies, etc. So this is not the thing even the moderates will be happy with, and it will, the Iranians have, there's a system of the government, and at the top is the supreme leader. So even for the image and for the overall aura of the Iranian regime, it's not good for them to agree on those things. So, but let's see. There's a possibility that Joe Biden will reach out to Iran, or maybe Iran reach out to Joe Biden. But there's a possibility that something can happen between the two countries, and for good, at least, if not others, at least in nuclear deal, as he promised that we will go back to 2015 position. Now we have to look what Joe Biden has to offer in this stance to go back to that position, and what Iran has to offer on the table. So it will be like a give and take situation.
How would you explain Joe Biden's election for the Americans?
It will be very important for the American people. I guess after a long time, the American election is not as much significant for the global affairs, but for the internal American social fabric. Trump just turned around 180 degree, which the American society and the leadership historically was. He just took another different stance. It was an unusual show of power and leadership by the America. So I guess Joe Biden, first of all, when he comes into power officially, he will try to regain that image that America had. And the first of it will be unity. So Joe Biden will keep he in his speech, the winning speech, he said that the election campaign is over. There's no opposition. There's no government. We are together, and we will work for the Americans across. So unity is the first thing. And there's a hopeful response to pandemic. Trump was busy in a blame game with China and calling it the China virus. But Joe Biden have said that he will more respond to the pandemic with the scientific approach and scientific evidence, and will do things to make it affordable for the lower segment of the society, so that nobody is left out. And second thing will be the change for minimum wage. Biden wants to make the minimum wage at least 15 USD per week. A push forward in the green energy was a vision of America. America under Joe Biden wants to 100% clean energy till the year 2050 and zero emissions till 2050. Criminal justice system reforms. Joe Biden is of the view that there's an institutionalized racism within the American criminal justice system where blacks are discriminated. So he wants to eliminate that and reform the system. Then he wants to expand the public health insurance program. And with that, he also wants to have a change in immigration laws, which were brought by the Trump. And he has said that he don't want to separate children from their mothers. He was talking about the Mexico and American border. With that, he also wants to have expansion in affordable education. He is particularly keen on the preschool years of the children. He also wants to continue the fight for LGBT rights. He has a project, As You Are, because I guess Trump ban on LBGT to have been inducted into the US military. So the first thing he would reverse that. And there's a hope for that Islamophobia will be reduced, if not eliminated. And as his speeches show that, he said we all are Americans. So we hope that Islamophobia will be reduced, hatred will be decreased, and America could match up to its historical example as a global player and a global leader, and not just thinking of its own interest, but for the global institutions and global village as a whole. So I guess this will be America back on track, with the exception of a detour that Trump took in the American history. Thank you.
Saddam, thank you so much for your valuable and precious analysis, and thank you so much again.